Hey everyone, Drea here. I'm going to stitch out a mini stocking with you today. So I have my materials set to the side just as it specifies in the tutorial. I have a lining fabric. This one is super cute printed flannel. And I also have a base fabric. This will be the front portion of my design. Now, I'm hoping you've already read through, but if you haven't, you'll notice in the tutorial there is a front and a back file for this design. So it's two files to create one in the hoop stocking. The back file, I've gone ahead and stitched. You'll notice in the tutorial, again, the back file comes first. So you want to stitch that first. What we've done here, you'll notice it's lined. You have the back and the decorative stitching. Trim that up like we have. It tells you exactly how to do that in the tutorial, and then place it to the side. So I have it here. I've already done that. We'll be stitching out the front file or the face of this adorable in the hoop stocking. So let's get started. I have my tearaway stabilizer hooped. I have my handy dandy tutorial, my good scissors, and we're ready to go. We'll start by loading our hoop in the machine. And as always, with Anita Goodesign, you'll have a placement stitch first. That'll show you exactly where to put everything. We have our placement stitch here. And the first thing we'll do is take our lining fabric and place it face down. You want to make sure that you're covering everything, and you need about a finger width or a 1/4 inch on each side for seam allowance. We have a little more than we need here. That's okay. At the top, however, you want to have 2 inches from this top opening of your design. So we have some excess fabric up here. Our lining fabric is face down. The next thing you'll do, and this is step C in your tutorial, you'll take your front fabric and you'll cover everything, aligning it over the edge. Make sure it goes just over the top edge of the placement stitch. Again, a little larger is a little easier. Everything is aligned, lining face down, base face up, return to the hoop. Go ahead and run your next machine step, which is your tacking stitch, to attach everything in place. All right, everything is tacked. The next stitch is a 2-parter, so it has 2 lines that'll go across. These are your marking stitches, and we'll show you how to create the cuff next. So let's remove our hoop. Now you'll see here, I have a lot of excess fabric. That's okay. We have 2 stitches here. One will show you where your top of your stocking will be, and then we'll show you again how to fold down the cuff. Now because I'm using a thicker interior fabric, I'm going to trim away a little bit of this just up to the edge. You don't have to do this, but it makes it easier to fold. So it's not a perfect trim, but just getting a little of this thicker excess out of the way. The next thing you'll do is create your cuff. So you'll take your lining fabric, and this is your folding stitch, this top stitch here. This is our lining fabric. So we're going to fold it here. Remember, I have a lot of excess on either side, so you're just focusing right here. This is my stitch. I'm folding it right to here. And then you're going to fold it. It should be showing. You should have your right side. When you get to this portion, make sure the right side of your fabric is showing. That way you have everything going the correct direction. You'll fold everything over. And then you're going to fold down here. So it's a double fold to get you a nice clean edge. Super easy. So from your flat where we've just tacked, you have your stitches. Fold it once to that top line. Fold it second time to that next line. And you can overlap it by about 1/8 of an inch. So instead of to right here, we're going to go just a little further past it. So don't fold it too tightly. There we go. All right. If you have a print like I do, and you want to align your print, you can finagle it a little bit so it's kind of straight. But this is a very forgiving project. If you are a creaser, you can finger crease, but make sure you tape this in place. I'm using my pink tape. Got my crease, checking for alignment here. Remember, this is excess, so I can use that to kind of angle. If your print gets crooked, you can always use your seam allowance to kind of pull your fabric a little more taut. That'll help straighten up your print. All right, looks really good. Everything's aligned. Tape's in place. Let's return. All right, so there is a tacking stitch first. It'll tack along the cuff. All right, now that my cuff is tacked, the next step is a decorative stitch. So I'm going to change out my thread because I want it to match the front. If you like a slightly larger cuff or slightly smaller cuff, you can just adjust your overage 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to grab my pretty thread here. This step will show, so the tack does not show, but you'll see in your machine steps there is a decorative stitch on top. So for the next portion of your design, these are the decorative elements. So you can follow your machine steps or use your own colors to get your embroidery portion stitched out. Now that we've assembled the front face of our design, you're ready to attach the back file and add in the ribbon. So take your length of ribbon and then fold it in half so that your raw edges are going to be toward this seam. Doesn't matter exactly where you place it. I prefer toward the corner. That way it will hang like a normal stocking. You give it a good crease, and then here you'll want a piece of tape to secure your ribbon. So again, edges are out. Loop is inside the stocking. It's not hanging over. And I'm going to add a piece of tape down here. Once that's finished, you'll take your back file. You'll make sure that your lining portion is facing up, so lining is going to be on top. The easiest way to align these stitches, to align the whole thing, is to align the top edge and this decorative stitch. So you can align, again, this top edge and decorative stitch as best as possible. Then double check as you're going around that your seams are close. Your back file is a little bit larger than the front to make it easier to tack. But again, double check that the top and the decorative stitching is aligned closely. Then add in some tape just to secure everything. Not a requirement, but always a good suggestion to keep it nice and secure. And then place your hoop in the machine. Now we'll run the final machine step, which is a tacking stitch. Once everything is tacked, you're ready to remove your tape and then trim up your design. So we've trimmed about 1/8 of an inch around. Any tape you have, you can go ahead and remove. If you have any curved edges that are a little bulky like this, you can take your scissors and do some notching into these corners. So just cut a small notch. If you have any excess bulk, you can trim in a small notch, just a tip for turning. Now you're ready to take out any excess stabilizer. If there's any excess here, you can remove it from those seams if you like, very carefully. Then you can see those notches a little more clearly here as well. So now we're ready to turn our stocking. Remember to take your time turning. You don't want to puncture any seams. Have your tape for the ribbon. This is a good project for a nice turning tool. Get your toe poked out here. And then you have an adorable little stocking. So if there are any edges up here that are showing from the placement stitch, you can remove those with a seam ripper or some scissors. Any little stitching here, you can just take that right out. And you can remove those and you have a little stocking. Look how cute. Thanks for joining us today as we stitch out our adorable mini in the hoop stocking. Can't wait to see your creations.